My name is Cameron Rhodes. I'm 32 years old. And for the past 4 years, I've been making $40,000 a month while my family thought I was barely scraping by on food stamps. My sister invited me to dinner last Tuesday, a family dinner at my parents' house. The kind where everyone brings something and pretends we're close. I went anyway. I wanted to see how they'd treat me. I wanted to watch them look at me the way they always had, like I was the failure, the burden, the one who never figured it out. And then I wanted to tell them the truth. Before we go on, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now let me take you back to how this all started. 4 years ago, I was broke. Actually broke. Not the kind of broke where you skip going out on weekends. The kind where you count quarters to see if you can afford a loaf of bread. I was 28, living in a studio apartment in Riverside with a mattress on the floor and a card table I'd found on the curb. I worked at a call center making $14 an hour, 40 hours a week, sometimes 50 if they needed coverage. I came home smelling like recycled air and desperation. My family knew I was struggling. They reminded me constantly. My sister Mallory would text me every few weeks, just checking in. You doing okay? Do you need anything? The subtext was always there. Are you still failing? Are you still the screw-up? My mother called on Sundays. Your father and I are worried about you, Cameron. Have you thought about going back to school? Maybe getting a real job? Like the call center didn't count. Like 40 hours, a week of telling people their cable bill was passed, due wasn't real work. My brother Derek never called. He didn't need to. He'd already made his opinion clear at Thanksgiving 3 years ago when he stood in our parents' kitchen and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Some people just aren't cut out for success. It's genetic. You can't force it." He was looking right at me when he said it. I stopped going to family dinners after that, stopped showing up for birthdays, stopped pretending I belonged at the table with Derek and his law degree and Mallory and her husband who owned a dental practice. I was the one who didn't fit. The one who reminded them that not everyone in the family made it. That was 4 years ago, and then something changed. I started a business, nothing glamorous, nothing I could brag about at dinner parties. I built websites for small businesses, local shops that needed an online presence, plumbers who wanted a booking system, contractors who needed a portfolio site. I charged $1,500 per site, sometimes $2,000 if they wanted e-commerce. The first month I made $3,000. The second month, $4,500. By month 6, I was making $12,000 a month and I'd quit the call center. By the end of year 1, I was at $25,000 a month. By year 2, $40,000. And it stayed there. $40,000 a month, $480,000 a year. After taxes, I was taking home about $28,000 a month. I could have told my family, could have called my mother and said, "Remember when you asked if I'd ever get a real job? Well, I'm making $500,000 a year." Could have texted Mallory back and said, "Actually, I'm doing better than okay." Could have shown up at Thanksgiving and watched Derek's face when I casually mentioned my income. But I didn't, because something inside me wanted to see how long they'd keep treating me like I was broken, how long they'd keep offering to help me, how long they'd keep looking at me with that mixture of pity and disappointment. I wanted to see who they really were when they thought I had nothing. So I kept living in Riverside, kept driving my 2008 Honda Civic with the dent in the passenger door, kept wearing the same jeans I'd had for 5 years, kept letting them think I was barely surviving. The only difference was the bank account they never asked about. I bought a house, paid cash, not in Riverside, in Clearbrook, a town 30 minutes north where nobody knew my family, a 3-bedroom craftsman with a garden and a porch. I furnished it slowly, bought a couch I actually liked, a bed frame, bookshelves. I started reading again, started cooking real meals, started living like someone who had money. But when my family called, when they asked how I was doing, I said the same thing I'd always said. "Getting by, you know how it is." And they did know, or they thought they did. My mother sent me grocery store gift cards on my birthday, $50 to help me out. My sister dropped off her old winter coat one year because she was cleaning out her closet and thought I might need it. My brother sent me a LinkedIn article about career pivots for people in their 30s. The subject line said, "Never too late." I kept everything. I kept the gift cards in a drawer. I kept the coat in my closet. I kept the email. I wanted to remember what it felt like to be pitied by people who didn't know the first thing about my life. If you've ever been underestimated by people who think they know everything about you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've ever let people believe a lie because the truth would be too complicated, leave a like right now. Last month, Mallory texted me, "Family dinner next Tuesday, Mom's house, 6 p.m. Can you make it?" I stared at that text for a long time. I hadn't been to a family dinner in almost 3 years. Not since the Thanksgiving when Derek made his comment about genetics and success. Not since I decided I didn't need to sit at a table with people who thought I was less than. But something about the timing felt right. 4 years of living a double life. 4 years of letting them think I was struggling. 4 years of watching them offer me pity I didn't need. I was tired of it. I was tired of pretending. I was tired of being the family project. So I texted back, "I'll be there." Mallory responded immediately. "Great. Can you bring a side dish?" I almost laughed. Of course. Of course they wanted me to bring something. Never mind that I probably hadn't been to a grocery store that sold anything worth bringing to a family dinner. Never mind that they assumed I'd show up with a bag of frozen vegetables or a box of store-brand crackers. I texted back, "Sure, I'll bring something." The week before the dinner, I went shopping. Not at the discount grocery store where I used to buy dented cans and day-old bread. I went to the expensive place in Clearbrook, the one with the organic produce and the imported cheese and the wine section that looked like a library. I bought ingredients, real ingredients. Saffron, arborio rice, Parmigiano Reggiano that cost $18 for a small wedge. I was going to make risotto, the kind you can't fake. The kind that takes 40 minutes of constant stirring and attention. The kind my mother used to make before she decided it was too much work. I spent Tuesday afternoon in my kitchen in Clearbrook, standing at the stove, stirring rice in small circles while stock simmered on the back burner. The house smelled like butter and wine, and something I couldn't name. Something that felt like reclaiming a part of myself I'd given up when I let my family think I was failing. At 5:30, I transferred the risotto into a ceramic dish I'd bought specifically for this. I wrapped it in a towel to keep it warm. I drove to my parents' house in my dented Civic, the dish on the passenger seat, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt ready. My parents live in Asherton, a suburb 20 minutes south of Riverside. The house is the same house I grew up in. Beige siding, green shutters, a front lawn my father mows every Saturday whether it needs it or not. I parked on the street behind Derek's BMW and Mallory's Tesla, and I sat there for a minute, looking at the house through the windshield. The lights were on in the dining room. I could see shapes moving inside. My family. The people who thought they knew me. I got out, I grabbed the dish. I walked up the driveway and knocked on the front door even though I still had a key. My mother answered. She was wearing an apron that said "World's Best Grandma," even though she only had one grandchild and he was 2 years old and couldn't read. "Cameron!" She pulled me into a hug that smelled like hairspray and vanilla. "You made it. Come in, come in. What did you bring?" I held up the dish. "Risotto," she blinked. "Risotto? Yeah, I made it this afternoon." She looked confused, like I just told her I'd brought a live chicken. "Oh, well, that's ambitious. You didn't have to do that. We have plenty of food." She took the dish from me and I followed her into the kitchen. The kitchen was full. Mallory was at the counter slicing bread. Her husband Paul was opening a bottle of wine. Derek was leaning against the refrigerator talking to my father about something golf-related. They all looked up when I walked in. "Cameron," Mallory said, smiling the way you smile at a child who's done something unexpectedly clever. "You brought risotto." "I did." "That's so sweet. Did you follow a recipe online?" "No, I've made it before." Derek laughed, not a mean laugh, not quite, but the kind of laugh that says he doesn't believe me. "Since when do you cook risotto?" "Since I learned how." My mother was already transferring the risotto into one of her serving bowls. "Well, it smells lovely, very fancy. We'll put it out with everything else." I watched her scrape my risotto into a bowl that didn't match anything else on the table. I watched her put it at the far end, next to the store-bought rolls and the canned cranberry sauce. I watched my family glance at it and then look away, like it was a curiosity but not something they'd actually eat. And I felt something cold settle in my chest. This was exactly what I'd expected. This was exactly why I'd come. Stay with me here, because this is where it gets interesting. We sat down to eat, my father at the head of the table, my mother at the other end, Derek and his wife Emily on one side, Mallory and Paul across from them, me at the corner in the chair I'd sat in since I was 12. The chair closest to the kitchen in case anyone needed something, the helper chair, the afterthought chair. My mother said grace. We passed dishes. Derek served himself first, then Emily, then my father. Mallory and Paul took their portions. My mother filled her plate. And then, finally, the dishes made their way to me. I noticed no one had touched the risotto. It sat at the far end of the table, untouched, while everyone filled their plates with pot roast and mashed potatoes and green beans from a can. So Cameron, my mother said, smiling at me with that smile that meant she was about to ask a question she already thought she knew the answer to. How's work? It's good. Still at the call center? I paused. No, I left that a while ago. Her eyebrows went up. Oh, when did that happen? About 4 years ago. Mallory set down her fork. 4 years, Cameron, why didn't you tell us? It didn't come up. What are you doing now? Derek asked. His tone wasn't curious, it was skeptical, like he was already preparing to be unimpressed. I have my own business. Doing what? Web design. I build websites for small businesses. He nodded slowly. That's good. That's a good side hustle, very entrepreneurial. Are you still looking for something full-time or? I looked at him. My brother. The lawyer who made $140,000 a year and thought that made him better than everyone. The man who'd told me I wasn't cut out for success. It's not a side hustle, Derek. It's my full-time job. Right, but I mean, is it sustainable? Are you making enough to live on? I'm doing fine. Because if you need help finding something more stable, I have some contacts. I could make some calls. I don't need help. My mother reached over and patted my hand. Honey, we know you're trying, and we're proud of you for starting your own thing. But Derek's right. Freelancing can be unpredictable. It might be smart to have a backup plan. If you've ever sat at a table where people who claim to love you talk about your life like it's a problem they need to solve, drop a comment. Tell me you understand. I took a bite of pot roast. It was dry, overcooked. My mother had never been a good cook, but no one ever said anything because criticizing the meal meant criticizing her effort, and we'd all learned a long time ago that effort was more important than results in this family. How much are you making? Emily asked. She was Derek's wife, a woman I'd met exactly 4 times and who always looked at me like I was a stray dog she was trying to decide whether to feed. Doing the websites, I mean, if you don't mind me asking. I minded, but I also wanted to see where this was going. It varies. But like average, what's an average month look like? It's enough. But is it livable? Are you able to pay your bills? Mallory jumped in, her voice soft and concerned. Cameron, are you still in that studio in Riverside? The one with the... I'm not in Riverside anymore, she blinked. You moved when? 3 years ago. Where are you living? Clearbrook. Derek laughed again, that same laugh. Clearbrook, that's a nice area. What are you renting there, like a room in someone's house? I bought a house. The table went quiet. My mother was the first to speak. You bought a house? Yes. How did you afford that? I saved up. Cameron, my father's voice, calm, measured, the voice he used when he thought someone was lying. Houses in Clearbrook aren't cheap. Even a small one is, what, $300,000. How did you save that much money working freelance? I looked at him, my father, the man who'd worked the same job for 40 years and retired with a pension and thought that was the only way to build a life. I didn't finance it. I paid cash. Mallory's fork clattered onto her plate. You paid cash for a house? Yes. How much cash are we talking? Derek asked. His voice had changed. The skepticism was gone. Now there was something else, something sharp. Enough to buy the house. Cameron, that's not an answer. I sat back in my chair. I looked around the table at my family, my mother with her mouth half open, my father with his eyebrows drawn together like he was trying to solve a math problem that didn't make sense, Derek leaning forward, Mallory staring at me like I'd just told her I was from another planet. How much do you make? Derek asked again. With the websites, how much? Like I said, enough. Give us a number, I smiled. Why would it change anything? Cameron, we're your family, we're just trying to understand. Understand what? Whether I'm worth taking seriously now? My mother's face crumpled. That's not fair, we've always supported you. Have you? I gestured at the table. At the risotto no one had touched. at the seat I'd been given in the corner, at the way they'd all served themselves before me like I was an afterthought. Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you've spent the last 4 years treating me like a charity case. We were worried about you, Mallory said. Her voice was defensive now, hurt. You were struggling, we were trying to help. I wasn't struggling, not for the past 4 years. I've been making $40,000 a month. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Derek's face had gone pale. Mallory's mouth was open. My mother was shaking her head like she was trying to clear water from her ears. My father just stared. 40,000, Derek said slowly. A month. Yes, that's 480,000 a year. I'm aware. And you didn't tell us. Why would I? I looked at each of them in turn. So you could stop sending me grocery store gift cards, so Mallory could stop dropping off her old clothes, so Derek could stop sending me LinkedIn articles about career changes. I wanted to see how long you'd keep treating me like I was broken. Turns out the answer is 4 years. My mother was crying now, quiet tears that she wasn't bothering to wipe away. Cameron, that's cruel. Is it? Is it crueler than assuming I was failing because I didn't have the same kind of success you recognized? Is it crueler than Derek telling me I wasn't cut out for it? Is it crueler than you asking me every Sunday if I'd thought about getting a real job? We didn't know, Mallory whispered. You should have told us. Should I? Why? So you could treat me differently because I had money, so you could decide I was worth respecting now. I didn't want your respect because of my bank account. I wanted you to respect me when you thought I had nothing. And you couldn't even do that. Paul, Mallory's husband, who'd been silent this whole time, cleared his throat. So, just to be clear, you've been making that much for 4 years and you let your mother send you grocery money. I kept it all, every gift card, every care package, every pitying text message. I kept them because I wanted to remember what it felt like to be the failure in the family. I wanted to remember that when I had nothing, or when you thought I had nothing, you treated me like a problem to be managed. Derek's voice was hard. So what, this was some kind of test? Some sick game to make us feel bad? It wasn't a game. It was reality. This is who you are when you think someone is beneath you. This is how you treat family when you think they're not successful enough to matter. Emily stood up suddenly. I'm not comfortable with this. She looked at Derek. Can we go? Derek didn't move. He was still staring at me. 40,000 a month doing what? Building websites? That's not possible. Who pays that much for a website? I charge between $1,500 and $2,000 per site. I build 20 to 25 a month. Do the math. He did. I could see it happening behind his eyes. You're making more than I am. Yes. He trailed off. That's ridiculous. I have a law degree. I went to school for 7 years. And I taught myself HTML and CSS on YouTube. Funny how that works. Mallory was crying now too. Cameron, I don't understand why you're being so mean. Mean? I showed up to your dinner. I brought a dish I spent hours making. I sat in the chair you always put me in. I answered your questions. I'm not being mean, I'm being honest. And you don't like it because honesty looks different when it comes from someone you thought was failing. My mother stood up, her hands were shaking. I think you should leave. I agree. I stood up. I picked up the dish of risotto that no one had touched. I'll take this with me. Cameron, my father started. No, it's fine, I get it, I showed up. I told you the truth, and now I don't fit the story you've been telling yourselves about me. I'm not the screw-up anymore. I'm not the one who needs saving. And that makes you uncomfortable because it means you've been wrong about me for 4 years. Maybe longer. I walked to the kitchen. I scraped the risotto into a container I found in my mother's cabinet. Behind me, I could hear my family starting to talk. Soft voices that would turn into loud ones as soon as I left. I could hear Mallory crying. I could hear Derek saying something about how I'd always been dramatic. I could hear my mother telling my father to do something, say something, fix this. But I wasn't their project to fix anymore. I grabbed my container. I grabbed my keys, and I walked out the front door without saying goodbye. 3 days later, Mallory called. I didn't answer. She called again and again. On the 4th call, I picked up. What? Cameron, please, can we talk? We did talk at dinner. You ambushed us. I told you the truth. If that felt like an ambush, that says more about you than it does about me. Why didn't you tell us? Why did you let us think you were struggling? Because I wanted to see who you were when you thought I had nothing to offer, and now I know. That's not fair. We love you. We were trying to help. You were trying to feel better about yourselves. There's a difference. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Derek wants to apologize. Does he? He feels terrible about what he said at Thanksgiving about genetics. He should feel terrible. He was cruel. He knows that now. He wants to make it right. Tell Derek I don't need his apology. I don't need anything from him or from you or from Mom and Dad. Cameron, you're our brother. You're our family. Then why did it take me having money for you to take me seriously? She didn't have an answer to that. Neither did I hung up. If you've ever walked away from people who only valued you once they realized you didn't need them, tell me in the comments. Tell me how it felt. Over the next few weeks, my mother called. My father sent emails. Derek texted an apology that was 3 paragraphs long and said absolutely nothing. Mallory sent me a care package with a note that said, I'm sorry we didn't see you. I sent it back unopened. I didn't go to Christmas. I didn't go to New Year's. When my nephew turned 3 in February, Mallory sent an invitation to his birthday party with a handwritten note at the bottom. Please come. He asks about you. I sent a gift card and a card. I didn't go. In March, my father showed up at my house in Clearbrook. I don't know how he got the address. Probably from Mallory, who probably got it from the emergency contact form I'd filled out at the dentist or somewhere else I'd stopped being careful. He knocked on the door at 8 in the morning on a Saturday. I answered in sweatpants and a t-shirt. Dad, Cameron. He looked past me into the house, at the hardwood floors, at the furniture I'd bought, at the life I'd built that he'd known nothing about. Can I come in? I didn't want him to, but I stepped aside. He walked into my living room and stood there looking around like he was in a museum. It's nice, the house. Thank you. 3 bedrooms. Yes. You live here alone. Yes. He sat down on my couch without being invited. Your mother sent me. She's worried. I'm fine. Are you? I sat down across from him. Better than I've been in years, actually. He nodded slowly. I don't understand what happened. At dinner, why you were so angry. I wasn't angry. You told your family you'd been lying to them for 4 years. I didn't lie. You just made assumptions. I let you keep making them. Why? Because I wanted to know who you all were when you thought I was worthless, and I found out. We never thought you were worthless, Cameron. Didn't you? Derek told me I wasn't cut out for success. Mom asked me every week if I'd thought about getting a real job. Mallory sent me her old winter coat like I was a homeless person she felt sorry for. You sent me LinkedIn articles. His face did something complicated. Guilt, maybe, or shame, or just the realization that I was right. We were worried. You were embarrassed. There's a difference. That's not true. Isn't it? Derek has his law degree. Mallory married a dentist. I was the one who worked at a call center, the one who didn't fit the family success story. And instead of asking me if I was okay, if I was happy, if I needed anything real, you just decided I was failing and treated me accordingly. So you punished us. No, I protected myself. I built a life, and I didn't invite you into it because I knew you'd only care if it looked impressive enough. And I was right. The second I told you I had money, everything changed. Derek wanted to apologize. Mallory wanted to talk. Mom started crying. But when you thought I was broke, you sent gift cards and pity. My father looked down at his hands. They were old hands now, spotted and veined. Hands that had built a life the only way he knew how. Steady work, slow progress, nothing flashy. I'm sorry, he said. I don't think we knew how to talk to you. You could have just asked, how are you? What do you need? What makes you happy? You could have treated me like a person instead of a problem. Can we fix this? I thought about that, about whether I wanted them in my life, about whether the people who'd pitied me for 4 years deserved to know the person I'd become. I don't know, maybe, but not like this. Not with you showing up here because Mom sent you. Not with Derek's 3-paragraph apology text. Not with Mallory's care packages. If we're going to fix this, it has to be because you actually see me. Not my bank account. Not my house, me. He nodded. He stood up. I'll tell your mother. Tell her yourself. Don't make this another project to manage. He stopped at the door. For what it's worth, I am proud of you. I should have said that 4 years ago. You should have, but you didn't. He left. I stood in my living room and looked around at the life I'd built in secret. The house, the furniture, the bookshelves full of books I'd finally had time to read. The kitchen where I made risotto for a family that didn't want it. And I felt something I hadn't expected to feel. I felt free. Someone watching this right now has been hiding who they really are because the people around them can't handle the truth. Someone has been letting others underestimate them because fighting for recognition felt more exhausting than just being invisible. If that's you, I want you to know something. You don't owe anyone access to your life. You don't owe anyone proof of your worth. And you definitely don't owe anyone the satisfaction of being right about you. I make $40,000 a month. I own my house. I have a life my family knew nothing about for 4 years, and when I finally told them, they couldn't handle it. Not because they weren't happy for me, but because it meant they'd been wrong. And being wrong about me meant looking at themselves, and they didn't like what they saw. I don't know if I'll go back to family dinners. I don't know if Derek's apology will ever mean anything. I don't know if my mother will ever stop sending gift cards or if Mallory will ever stop trying to fix things she didn't break. But I know this. I'm not the failure. I never was. I was just the only one brave enough to build something different. If this story reached you, if you've ever been underestimated by the people who should have believed in you most, tell me in the comments. Tell me what you built when they weren't looking. I read every single one.